We can do 30 minutes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Unfiltered Vet Discussion. Per normal, we are just chitty chatting along, going, "Hey, anybody like push the record button yet?" And we're like, "Oh, no, that's my job. Let me do that." So we're talking about the economic state of the union halfway through the year. Um, we want to share basically, but here's the admin aspect of it. Like, share, follow. Please just smash the button. It's close to you. You can hit it on your phone, on your computer. Make it happen because then we come right to your email box and make it easy for you to follow us along. It's on every podcast platform and every social media platform. Okay, with that being said, we're going to dive into the State of the Union because all four of us, read different things, see different things, hear different things in the veterinary space, which is one of the things that makes this panel so fun because we can just bring in different information because nobody can follow everything all the time. It's just not possible. There's just too much information out there these days. And everybody has their own network of conversations as well. And we can't talk to everybody in the veterinary space all the time. It's not possible. So we were talking about the State of the Union, and since David's job is numbers and spreadsheets and more numbers and spreadsheets, and God bless him because you enjoy
Yeah.
it and think it's fun, and it sends me slightly into a tiz. We were talking about what you were seeing, and Peter had some questions for you. So we're just going to back up that conversation we had before the record button, gentlemen. So Peter,
Yeah.
yeah, let's just talk about that for a minute.
Well, we were talking about kind of that I'm seeing the trend. Now, granted, this is not representative. It's not an official sample size. These are from practices we're working with doing valuations, whether it's for a transaction, a buy-in, buy-out, or for just management and planning purposes. But, last year, the first quarter of this year, things have been fairly consistent. I mean, one of the things we talk about is how are things going? How are you feeling about the practice? And, economically, how are the clients doing? Is there pushback? And yeah, maybe one or two out of 10 would say they're starting to see clients decline. And that had been last year, the first quarter, kind of the normal, just a small percentage. Most of our clients were continuing to be busy, maybe booked out now a week, 10 days instead of 6 weeks, uh, but they're filling up their schedule. In the last 3, 4 months, we're starting to hear from more clients. Maybe it's up to half, 60%, not all, but they're saying that they're more recently getting pushbacks. The people are saying, well, I'm not going to do that now. I'll do that next month or spread things out. And that mostly due to discretionary cash flow issues, not necessarily fees or pricing, but yeah, more money's going to gas, more money's going to consumables and household expenses, that the pets are still a little bit lower. So it's not all practices. It does seem to be geographic. Certainly, DC, Baltimore, Northern Virginia has more of that because you have more government impact there. Um, but there is a trend, at least we're seeing in our clients. I don't know, Jenny, are you getting pushback from more than normal?
I think we're having more financial conversations. I think I've noticed an increase in care credit use, or,
Hmm.
I've talked to other people who take scratch pay or cherry, and they're seeing more use for that for maybe routine, things where it used to mostly be used for surgeries or emergencies or things like that. So, but I will say, I mean, we're still very busy. We're recording this in June. Our next available routine appointment is I think the end of August. So we're still booking out quite a ways. Our schedule is still very full, but we are having, I've had more conversations about, do you take payment plans?
Hmm.
But also, so the conversation is there, but I haven't seen a lot of people decline care yet. Um, So I guess we'll have to see how that goes.
And just for purposes, you're in New Hampshire, to
Correct.
anybody who's listening,
Yeah.
because if you don't follow along all the time, you might not know
Correct. And we
that.
are, I mean, it is a very expensive state to live in. People here do tend to have, I don't want to say more discretionary funds, but yeah, probably.
Yeah, and it's certainly not everyone. The last couple valuations I did, they were like, no, no more than normal. So there's a baseline area, but I'm just hearing it with a little more frequency. It makes me see that something's happening for sure.
Mhm.
So, Jenny, you're a unicorn because not only are you in New Hampshire, you're in the rural aspects of New Hampshire. So
Mhm.
your competition isn't 100 yards away.
Correct.
Whereas in
Right.
DC, there's a veterinary practice every 100 yards. Same with Los Angeles. And so as a result, you have competition on price
Yeah.
as an option. I have had two requests in the last week to do podcasts outside of the profession
Mm.
from people wanting to talk about the cost of veterinary care and why it's gotten so expensive. And these are people talking about things on the economic side of things, and they want to talk about pet health insurance, and they want to talk about private equity and its impact on cost of care and other things. So the impact in the profession can be exacerbated by conversations outside of the profession. And so if consumers, depending upon where they go for their news, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest,
TikTok's a
whatever,
great place to get news.
TikTok,
Well, that's by
yeah,
generation too.
Twitter. Yeah.
Older people go one place, younger people go to social media more likely, right?
yeah.
So
So
who's your
all people,
demographic that comes into the hospital too matters.
yeah, well, the demographics going into hospitals right now are 52% Gen X and excuse me, Gen Y and Gen Z. So and 30% of hospital owners are baby boomers. So we have this great disconnect between the old white guys in the room, like myself, and the next generation of pet owners, and we're not always meeting the needs. Be interesting to ask David the demographics of the sellers that you have been doing appraisals for, um, because that will also determine certain things. You're also reporting primarily on the East Coast,
Right.
and I can suggest on the West Coast, we're definitely dealing with cost of care issues, especially because gas is $6 a gallon. But eggs are down to $1.99, so that's an improvement.
Oh,
Um,
ours are not.
well, I think we're 3D printing our eggs.
Oh,
Um,
do they taste the
when you mix them in with other things, you
Tastes
don't
like
know.
chicken.
Yeah,
same?
right. But if you look at the national reports, and I just got one pulled up in front of me from VetWatch, from January to June, clients are down 2%. Invoices are down 2.5%. Patients are down 2.4%. Revenues up 2.4%. So that's coming from fee increases, because
Yeah.
if you're seeing more people, it's going to be an average client transaction going up. And that's where the
Yeah.
pushback starts to come. And that's a national survey. So of course, as you noted, demographics will make a difference from that standpoint. But I do think we're in a funk. And let me enunciate that. We're in a funk right now um, because of so much uncertainty on a global basis and so much mis and disinformation, not in the veterinary field, but I would actually suggest we are in a lack of information in the veterinary field that doesn't help consumers have a better understanding of what veterinarians can do and how much less expensive preventative care is
Yes.
than therapeutic care.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I really do think that we have not advocated enough for preventative care, nor have we made it a more affordable access point, because I would suggest in many practices, preventative care has become a barrier to access because of the cost of it, which then leaves very little in a budgeted situation for sick care when things occur. So we're in a situation, this is the post-COVID disease state that we are in, trying to recover from a very affluent 2-year period where we were revenue-wise making money, but I would suggest David will tell us that profit-wise we were not.
Yeah.
And now, profit-wise, this is a question I asked of David that started this conversation. When you're doing these appraisals, what is the trending of profit? And I think your answer was,
Yeah, we're still seeing the bell-shaped curve where the average practice true profit, not what's on your tax return, P&L, got to put the caveats out there, but the average is still 10 to 12%. We see most commonly small animal, large animal, inefficiencies, windshield time, markups, the trend more likely to be lower profit, but it still means half of all practices are 10, 11% or less. And right before we were recording, I talked about two practices I spoke with this morning, one grossing $1 million, one grossing $2 million, both have no profit. One was the $1 million one was $215 of profit, and the other one was, I think, 1%. So it doesn't have anything to do with size, and they're both very nice facilities, top shelf practices, but we're seeing, and the trend over the last couple years, wanting to pay a living wage, take care of your team, competition increasing to higher qualified people. You got to pay more to keep them. That support staff is creeping up as a percent of revenue. And in general. And then you've got inventory management, cost of goods sold, also the number one financial disease area for most practices. That's creeping up. That 1-2 hit drops the bottom line because your
Did
fixed expenses tend to continue. Now, to be fair, the practice grossing $1 million, its landlord went through and renewed the lease
Oof.
and went to fair market, and
Oof.
now its rent is 13% of revenue
oh,
Oof.
instead of 4 or 5% or less.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there are other variables at play, but the cost of doing business continues to increase, and it's expensive providing vet care. And that was a conversation I had because you mentioned it and was spot on, seeing more care credit, seeing more clients with insurances, and that practice owner, and this was being done for management and planning purposes, had said that exact same thing. They're seeing more clients with insurances, which I'm a fan of, as
Mhm.
long as, and we talked about this, but as with that practice owner, as long as the insurance company reimburses the pet owner,
yep.
then I'm all for it. The pet owner has to know what that cost is, and an educational invoice, as soon as it's being reimbursed to the practice, we've got a problem. And that's the slippery slope of human pet care. My wife just had a gallstone attack, emergency. We went in, had all kinds of tests and everything. Cost us $20. You
For
know,
now.
uh, insurance takes care of it. So I have no idea of the cost of what we went through. And if that comes into the vet space, we're in trouble.
Mhm. Well, we're not there
so
yet, so we won't
No.
bite off trouble before it arrives on the doorstep, right? Because we have enough already to work on and deal with for people. But I think from a marketing point of view, what we try to help our clients with, and we try to help educate them is educate them on the value of what you're doing. Explain to them on the value of what you're doing. Explain that preventative medicine really can nip some things in the bud, right? Like over communicate on some of these things instead of under communicate on these things, and just not panic, like help your pet owners not panic and just be good about it, right? And that it's hard to do when you're busy and wearing multiple hats.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was going to tell Jenny right now, drop everything and make your social media post for the next month, you'd probably kill over. You'd be like, no, I'm not doing that.
No, I would say, hang on, let me text Ashley because she's in charge of it.
Right.
Because I delegate.
Right. And you
Well,
do that.
Yep.
the interesting thing is that Jenny would probably say, Kelly, I don't need to. I'm booked out until August.
Yeah, but she still
Which,
does.
no, I know, but that's the average answer is when you're busy, you don't do consistently
Right.
what you need to do so that when you're not busy, you're playing catch up. So, or catch up. So when you're in the seat of Kelly Baltzell and we have practices that are seeing decreasing visits and decreasing transactions and decreasing clients, one of the things that is most commonly cut as an expense is,
Marketing.
Yeah.
and what is the last thing that should be cut when things are slow?
Marketing.
Marketing.
And I'm
That should
not
be
here
like
to
a
sell,
tagline.
I'm not here to sell Kelly's business, except to say from a commonsensical standpoint and listening to the prophet of profit, Dave McCormick, um, that you really shouldn't be reeling in expenses that drive the front door. You should be doing everything you can in a proactive fashion to open
Yeah.
the front door. And whether that is forward booking, whether that is follow-up communication, way too many practices go 365 days between communications between a client and the
Yeah.
practice, which is why we have such high turnover. I mean, honestly, one of the KPIs that we don't really look at is client retention from year to year,
Yeah.
which is a measure of longevity and measure of the entire team and the work that you do. We're so worried about staff retention, which we should be, and staff retention equals client retention. Um, but that comes from marketing, that comes from communication, that comes from being aware that as good as it is now, there's an iceberg in front of you. And if
And
somebody doesn't tell you about the iceberg, you'll be in trouble.
Yeah.
people who are listening to this, you also don't have to take our word for it. There's been multiple studies done about downturns on businesses of all sorts. So, like businesses that survived the depression, how did they survive that? Right? They didn't turtle, they put themselves out there further in marketing, major recessions. Like there's been studies done, economic studies done that you can go Google and read yourselves that why it feels vulnerable during a downturn, that you don't want to spend that money on marketing. Studies have shown that the businesses who do recover quicker in an upturn. They're there, they're positioned, they manage, they hold on through the downturn. So it's just not us saying this. There's things out there that support it, right? Before our own experiences.
And I think there are ways, even if you don't have a big budget, we have an Instagram and a Facebook account. We don't pay anything. Like we don't do the upsells for the advertising and things like that. We just have really good content, 3, 4, 5 times a week. Yesterday we did one about rescuing turtles because right now in our area, all the turtles are crossing the road. And I almost caused an accident last week because I had to stop and save one. But the guy shouldn't have been that close to me. So when I slammed on my brakes, it's not my fault that he almost rear-ended me. But I had to save a turtle. It's what you do. But so yeah, we had a whole post on that and like what do you do if you find a turtle, who to call if it's injured, and it's something that touches in our area most of the people who follow us. And then we had a 10-year anniversary last month that we made a big post about that, the birthdays, but also just content. We did last Friday, it was like the weirdest week. And we Simon castrated a 300-pound pig that's testicles were as big as his head. I'm so glad we're on a veterinary podcast because I can't say that anyplace else. But so we have pictures of that and a random ferret that came in and like all of these fun things just so we could post a video of here's a week in the life of what we do. To add value to that, to show what we do, to show us out in the community, to, all of these things. That doesn't cost anything other than me paying my team member who does it. So
And And it's positive news because we
Yes.
talk about so much negative, so much uncertainty. And so for your clients to see that, for the folks that are following, it's a positive element, which kind of lightens people's day, we hope, counteracts some of that, but it builds goodwill. And it's that presence tying this back. When people start looking, you post a help wanted ad, we want a technician. They go and they Google the practice. And what's your presence? What's your practice's presence online? That impacts your ability to hire and attract help. Do I want to go work for somebody who there's no happy, there's no joy presence online? I think that plays a role. And
It does, David, because
economic issues
yeah,
where we're at now, staffing is hard for most practices. Almost every practice we work with could use a couple techs and a doctor. And
we've had
they're
clients
all
say that.
connected.
Yeah, we've had clients say, it's a surprise bonus, but we got a higher clientele of applicants once we started marketing with you.
Yeah,
So it matters whether you go with us or somebody else. Your front door matters. If you want somebody you would never have somebody hopefully walk into your lobby and it smells bad and it's dirty everywhere. And everybody's like, why should I bring my dog, pet, cat, or whatever fits through the door to you?
or
Right?
work there.
Or work there. And somebody's yelling at somebody and berating them, like I'm just thinking of the worst case scenarios here. Same goes for your marketing, and no, you'll never know they're there.
I will say, to add to what Kelly was saying about like the studies and what gets people through these kind of difficult times. To me, it's thinking outside of the box. Like you see all of the businesses, what got us through COVID? We pivoted fast. We started with curbside. We started, and we were able to adjust and meet the demand. And I think that if you just keep saying, this is how we've always done it, well, this is how I've always advertised. Okay, well, again, right? Demographics, things change. So thinking outside of the box. And I think when it comes to medical care, veterinarians are really good at this, right? Like the MacGyvers of the medical world. Like, give me a toothpick and a piece of floss, and I'll come up with a leg brace for a dog. I mean, I just feel like the stuff that they can do is pretty impressive. But when it comes to running a business, it's not always easy to think outside of the box, and I'm thinking about, like, right now we cannot find one liter saline anywhere through our distribution. There's no 1 liter saline rigid bottles. So what do we do? Okay, I started Googling, where else can we find them? Guess what? Amazon has them, which I don't feel good about buying it from there, and it's stupid expensive, but we need these products to do surgeries. So we're going to make it happen. But if you just say, oh, well, I'll just wait until they're back in distribution, okay, well, then what? So it's just a matter of thinking outside of the box in how do we get people in the door? Okay, well, what haven't you done? Stand outside in a friggin' inflatable hippo costume and see if, or the dinosaur, the dinosaurs didn't go to the vet. Now look what happened. Fun things like that, but it's just get out there and do something different.
That's really
Dinosaurs didn't
funny.
go to the vet, and now they become vets because
Is that what the sign says?
yes, no, we're talking about the state of the profession halfway through 2026. And it wasn't that long ago that I said, 2025, 2024 felt like 2019. In other words, it felt like the pre-pandemic.
Right.
We had come back to that. Now it's starting to lean into not such a bad 2009, the
Mm.
recessionary type
Yeah.
thing. Now there is a horizon that is not an iceberg that will be very interesting, and we maybe don't talk about it enough, but I want to give a positive thought. Pandemic started in March of 2020. In that next 6 to 9 months, the number of pets that were adopted went through the roof. Those pets are now 6+. So in the next couple of years, those will be starting to lean on the senior side of things, depending upon which breed they are. Those purebred Labradoodles and those French Bulldogs that came out of shelters. I'm kidding, slightly. So aging pets will increase our workload in the near future. But in the meantime, people need to know you're out there. And so when we're seeing, so David, very simple algebraic question.
Oh God.
To increase you, if we can keep our expenses under control, dollar for dollar, not percentages, because if we keep them dollar for dollar, if we want to make more money, if we want to increase our revenue, what are the two things that go into revenue calculations?
Well, certainly the fees, but then how much you're doing it. And that's the opportunity because they can't hire doctors. Can't you set me up? Thanks for that low serve. Um, now I'm getting excited.
I was
They,
gonna say, I just saw David like light up. Ooh, ooh,
yeah,
ooh.
woo.
Let's talk
But
about a spreadsheet.
and this isn't anything. I mean, this last year we've been advocating that it's team utilization, right? Working smarter, not harder, and the Vet Partners Team Utilization Guide as a resource to that. But if you can't find doctors and you can't find teams, then how can you use what you do have? How can you get one more dental procedure in? How can you get one more preventive exam in? You know, because we're in a fixed cost business. And the more medicine you can practice with the same expenses, everyone wins with that. The pet owners, the pets, it's no different on the large animal side. How do we get one farm call in between where I'm ending for the day and home base? Because that's going to be your most profitable. Your last one is your most profitable. How do you get one more in? And working smarter, not harder. COVID killed productivity. It redefined what it meant to be busy. And AHA's study showed that the productivity decreased, what was it, 29% or something. We all feel we're busy, but if you go back before COVID, you were doing more transactions per day, per week than our busyness now. So it is, working smarter, not harder. That improves the top line, benefits the pet owners, benefits the practice. You want to pay more? Yeah, do more and share that with the team for
So
sure.
I'm going to set up Kelly with the next question for you, David. If we keep our fees where they are and we want to increase our revenue, what do we need to do?
Well, other than utilize the team, but get that marketing going in there, bringing
See more
those folks
people.
in and educate. And that ties into what Jenny was talking about. And even hitting what you were talking about on preventive care, right? The four big areas for every practice: nutrition, because there's an overweight pets; cats, completely underserved; dentistry, oral health, and preventive care. You know, 20% of pets have emergent issues. The other 80% appear to be healthy. Let's focus on those. But all four of those require education. The team educating the client, and that takes time and intent and a common message, which is hard. It's
So,
not easy when you're going from fire to fire and a busy full schedule. And so those four areas remain underserved.
so in the global world out there, the non-veterinary world, the perception is that veterinary costs have escalated dramatically higher than everything else out there, even more expensive than gas and eggs. That's the perception.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Now, to those who perceive it, it's a reality. Why do you think, and this is a message for the audience because we are halfway through the year, and it's not what you think, people, it's what others think.
Yeah.
Okay? So
Mhm.
get your freaking egos out of the way and start to recognize what the bigger picture needs are. It's what your audience is thinking. So, why do you think, or why do we think that the perception in the world of veterinary medicine outside the world, why do we think that the perception outside of the world of veterinary medicine is that veterinary medicine has gotten so expensive?
Because all they can see is their invoice and it's going up, or it's still expensive compared to the relative to other household expenses. They don't have any education behind it, which is marketing. Like they don't understand the value of the line items of why it's costing too much. They just feel like they're being taken advantage of. And if I have to pay X dollars to the veterinarian, does that mean Y dollars are not paid to something else? Do I have to give up something? You know, what's the opportunity cost there in the household budget? And people are always going to think negative. Well, maybe not always, but 99.9% of the time in the lack of information. They'll put their own thoughts in there.
Well, I also think it's become more expensive because it has become more expensive. Hiring a good team is more expensive.
Yeah.
Some equipment, yeah, 10 years ago, DR was through the roof. Now you can get a good radiology system less expensive, but other elements are more expensive. So the costs have gone up, and that's bona fide. I think the second element is over the last 10 years, some education has happened, and that pet owners are doing more than they did before. There's, in the last 10 years, some dental revenues in practices have gone up. They have a long way to go. I'm a huge fan of oral health with pets. And there has been some client education. So by electing to do more, it is more expensive. And certainly fees have gone up along with that. But I think you're right, Kelly, that an educational invoice or people understanding what they're getting and why they're getting things and what's the client experience, right? As long as they can't judge the medicine, they judge the experience. As long as the experience is greater than the invoice, you're going to hit it out of the park. But what is their experience? How are they being talked to? Are they being listened? Do they feel heard? And is it a team doing it, or is it all that pinnacle leadership? It's the doctor at the top, not utilizing the team. And the perception is real that the costs are going up, and they are, and they
Yeah.
have.
But it's also
Um,
consistency, David. I would add on to that. We as human beings have taught to be consistent by any brand that we follow. So pick any major brand that you utilize in your professional life or personal life. We all have our favorites. You know, David, we talk about Legos all the time with you, right? And
and
how, like,
Jenny,
right?
yeah, have you seen Cigar, the new set that's coming out this fall?
No, but
No,
we'll
not
have to,
yet.
yeah.
Uh,
Right,
Sa-
let's bring it back in.
Yeah,
Okay,
God.
sorry.
exactly. So David
Sagrada
has
Familia, the
I do.
12,000 pieces. Whew.
So David is Legos. We've just clearly shown he's lit up like a light tree there. But Lego's brand on those new sets are consistent wherever you look at, right? When we have dealt with people with marketing or we have new clients that have come in and we do an audit of their marketing, it is not consistent. Or they try to say, can you fix all my negative reviews about the front desk person? I'm like, well, is that front desk person still there?
Right. There's only one way to fix that, folks.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like,
And it's not Kelly's not fixing it.
Google doesn't let us remove negative reviews, and I'm pretty sure it's not your competitor saying negative things about your front desk person when a whole bunch of other people are, right? Like it's consistency too of what is your brand and what's your messaging as well as education. You can't, you understand what I think I'm saying here?
Yeah, it all goes back to value. It all goes back to, right, if your price, if your invoice is this high, however high, and your value is lower than that, then they're not going to come back. They're going to leave you negative. So they need
Yeah.
to have that value. Team utilization is huge on this, making sure that your team understands what is our purpose. What is
Right.
our mission?
Yeah.
What are our values? Are we doing this every time with every client and every patient? And you're not going to. No one is 100%, and you can try your hardest. You can go to Starbucks and you can get your drink, and sometimes they screw it up because we're human. However, the majority of the time, you can do this. And by utilizing your team, utilizing all of your forms of communication, text, email, calling them, mailing. I have people who still want stuff snail mailed. Fine, we'll mail it. Whatever you need us to do is fine. Having multiple ways for them to get their nutrition. Okay, yes, you can come into the clinic and get it, but also, hey, we can get it shipped right to your door. Let's get you signed up with that. But if they don't see the value in what you do, and this is one of the things that I love about the AI scribe, my doctors have to talk through their exam out loud. Oh, well, I've checked and I'm not feeling any lumpy bumpies. Oh, the skin feels great. Oh, the eyes look nice
Client
and bright.
education.
It is. But before that, doctors would go in and they're chit-chatting with the client while they're petting the dog. They're already doing their exam. If your client doesn't know that you're physically, they're like, well, they never looked in the ears. You did. You were just busy distracting them and talking to them, and they didn't see you do it. They didn't see you put your stethoscope on the dog. And so to me, it's all about value. What is their value in coming to you? What is their value to come to you and get you their advice, as opposed to going to Google, as opposed to going to the kid checking out your food in Petco? There has to be a value. And we on this podcast understand the value of the veterinary profession. And we have to make sure that our clients know that. So if all they're seeing out there in the global world is vet med is so expensive, but they understand the value that they're getting, then it's worth that expense. I was just talking, I'm a Disney freak, right? I was just talking to one of my team members is going, and she was talking about 2 different resorts at the Disney World. And I said, listen, I love this one resort. It's one of my favorites. It is also a deluxe resort, and it's going to cost you a lot more money. But to me, there's value there because you take a little boat, you get right over to the Magic Kingdom, like all of that. She did not see the value in that. She doesn't do Disney math the same way that I do Disney math. And so for her, that value is not worth it. And she's going to go with the cheaper resort. Fine. That's fine. But what are your clients looking for? What value can you give them? And why are they choosing you? And if they don't know, if you don't know, your clients for sure don't know. But it has to be in every interaction that they have with your CSRs, with your technicians, with your doctors, with me when you call and have a complaint. I've had conversations with people that are like, oh, it's so expensive. And I'm like, I understand it's expensive. And we are there for you 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You see the same team members every single time you come in here. You're going to see the same doctors that see your pets on a regular basis. We don't have to send our medical records anyplace else, but it does cost to have that. And people are like, well, that's true, but I really like having that available. Great. That's a
And I
value.
think kind of coming back to where we started, we're midway through the year. We are seeing economic trends happening. Is it going to continue? Is it going to level out? We don't know. But when we're seeing this coming, that iceberg's out there, that it becomes even more important to bring the team together, to focus. What is our mission? What is our client experience? What value are we doing? How can we do more of that team utilization? Because you need to shore up the infrastructure now before it becomes a squirrel nest.
Squirrel's
And
nest.
then you're reacting because it's too late. You haven't been preparing.
And from a marketing side, if you want to keep your marketing budget under control, it's a 3-month to a 6-month ramp, working with Google's social medias and things like that. Google and Facebook and any social media platform will take all the money you want to give it today. They'll suck it right up like a vacuum and put you at the top of the page. It's going to cost you though. So if you want to keep those budgets, start now. Even if you're booked out like Jenny, keep your marketing going. Know it's 3 to 6 months on a consistent day-to-day basis. If you can't do it, find somebody who can.
Right. So some final thoughts. Number one, the middle class is shrinking. And as a result of this, the shift to the bell-shaped curve of the pet owning middle class, there's less cash available for non-discretionary.
Yeah.
And we've seen increases in concert ticket costs, hotel costs, airfare costs,
Sports.
Disney costs, etc., at a parallel to veterinary. So we're seeing pushback, and I would say that even looking at the attendance or projected attendance for the World Cup, many of the football games the football games have not sold out.
Yeah.
And that is travel and everything else. And so veterinary medicine is really being sucked into the morass that's going on with the middle class. And we have to be sensitive to it. And we have to be empathetic to our clients who are dealing with the challenges and many of your staff members who are middle class or below.
Yeah.
So I think this is a great time to get back to your purpose, as Jenny noted, to revisit your mission and your vision, and to focus on a great client experience, added value, a little bit more time, and learning how to leverage your staff to do some of the work for you, work smarter, not harder, in your practice. And it's going to be 6 months to a year or more before we get out of this current economic environment, because there's still a lag time between the end of any war and God knows what's going to happen next. And we'll see what happens in November with an election. So all of these things mean that you have to be proactive and
Yeah.
start to plan. Failing to plan is planning to fail. That's all I have to say.
That's a perfect wrap. We'll see you
Yep,
next
we're
time.
done. Thank you, everybody. We love having you here. Like us, follow us, share, comment.